back here for another episode. This is going to be kind of, might be a mishmash, might be somewhere, going all over the place, but has the overarching theme of adventures. Now, we've gone and had another program about how I write up adventures, but as far as inspiration goes, um, well, as I said before, be observant. Media out there, movies, books, TV, newspapers, news stories, the internet, you name it, whatever you can get from. I've got this little book here that I carry around with me. See, brown book, for ideas, quotes. I've just started to do this, so I'm not quite used to doing it, though I'm starting. Like I've got some future names for characters in here. Maybe a couple of story ideas I come up with. I even put drawings in here. Like here's a steampunk air-powered rifle, if you can see that. And I've also got a spring-loaded steampunk pistol. Sort of, kind of, anyway. Anyway, love this light. But that's a good thing to have. And there are times when you need a session and the ideas just aren't coming. That's why I have my inspiration pile. I mean, these are useful for far more than just inspiration, but they help to get the juices flowing, if you know what I mean. If I'm, excuse me, really stuck for a plot, I will pull out this book, Eureka by Engine Publishing. It comes with 501 adventure plots to inspire game masters. And they're sorted different ways. They give you some GM advice in there, of course. It's sort of from fantasy, sci-fi, horror. Those are the three main categories. But they break them down to subcategories. Plus, every every plot hook they give you, or plot, it's a generic kind of plot. But at the end, they will easily adapt it to a type of genre, a genre or subgenres. Here's one of The Wizard Who Lost His Staff, which is for fantasy. At the end it says, easily adapted to comedy, cyberpunk, grim and gritty fantasy, pulp romance, sci-fi, super, swashbuckling, and traditional fantasy. And in the back they have wonderful indexes by subgenre, I believe it's genre, subgenre, and by tag. They have tags on each of the stories. You can look at it, and plots by title or contributor, which makes this really, really handy. I can't think of anything. I'll just start thumbing through this. Okay. Another one, another good book by Frog God Games is the Tome of Adventure Design. Now this is something that, they've got tables and things you can roll on here, but they actually show you how to put together a story and how to get inspired by a story. You can roll things. You know what I like to use this thing for? Believe it or not, making monsters, because they have a section on monsters in here that is really, really good. I just rolled up a couple the other day, and I came up with this one just from the chart. They're called hotheads. They're constructs. They're metal heads on discs that spin and they fly. The metal discs cut, they breathe fire, and it's like a guardian or a servant. I was thinking of since they're like constructs, magical or mechanical or however you want to do it, and you can tell them to do or not do, you program them. But I was thinking of putting them in like a high priest or evil wizard's lair as statues. Make the statues and put the hothead inside the head. So when don't let these people pass, don't let this happen. And when they get the trigger, they burst out of the statues and start attacking people. Cool one. Here's another one called Coin Gluttons. It's an undead. It's basically it's like the undead, the remnant of a miser. And they just want to grab treasure. They will fight for treasure. They see your treasure, they will grab it. They are coin gluttons. And I just can't, those are just two I came up from out of this book. And it's a really good book. Aside from that, I mean, as far as like it's got like monster tables, creature tables, dungeon tables, and it just goes beyond um, you know words. It actually gives descriptions for some of the stuff, and it will walk you through the whole thing. I love this book. It's Frog God Games, Tome of Adventure Design. Another two I use in conjunction with that is the toolbox books. Now, some of you may have heard about this before. Toolbox is by Alderac Games. I think they're still around. But they made all these D20 books about different aspects like Dungeons and Dragons and Evil and, warriors and things like that. Well, one book that came out that was absolutely fantastic for anything is Toolbox. Once again, tables and about anything, cities, dungeons, wilderness. Great way to flesh out that idea. Now, after third edition, by the way, the Toolbox is a D20 book, but don't let that scare you away if you're not into third edition or Pathfinder, because you can easily, like it says something like, it gives you saves like Fort Reffinwell. You can, extrapolate that to the 5 saves or the 1 save if you're playing Swords and Wizardry. And they went one step further after the OSR started, and they made Ultimate Toolbox. Now, this kind of blows this away. I think of this as Ultimate Toolbox Lite now. And it's got even more charts and more explanations, and you can roll dungeons in here. I mean, you can, they've got a chart. They've got like pages here where the starting dungeon tile, you roll it on a D20. And you just go from there and go the corridors and stuff like that. You can use that for this, or if you want to make a dungeon, they have there's an even better one out there. Now, a while ago during first edition, think first edition, second edition, Janelle Jacques came up with a series called Central Casting. The first one was Heroes of Legend, which was for fantasy heroes. It was basically to give characters backgrounds. You could roll on it and come up with this. They even had a sheet in there. This whatever background you wanted. They did 2 other books, one for science fiction, one for modern horror modern like Call of Cthulhu, superheroes, spies, etc., etc., etc. Well, the 4th one came out from Task Force Games. She didn't have anything to do with it, but they came out with Central Casting Dungeons. This is if I don't always want to haul this thing out to do that. So I haul out Central Casting Dungeons, and it's the same way. It's a starting tile, and then you keep rolling and rolling. It's the chapel, kitchen, treasure room, bottomless pits, teleportation rooms. Why was this dungeon built? Civilization traits. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And you can get a dungeon toot sweet. Now, my philosophy of designing dungeons is I don't think dungeons should be the be-all and end-all of role-playing games. I'm talking about fantasy. I'm talking about like D&D. I don't think it should be the be-all and end-all of D&D. Now, that's why I tend to not deal with mega dungeons. First of all, I get overwhelmed by them. Secondly, okay, fine, that's one dungeon, but in my games, I don't like to always shove my players into a hole in the ground. I think the dungeon either is, clean. I understand there's plots like clean out the dungeon and stuff like that, but I like to use the dungeon as part of a larger adventure. Like that automatically to me gives me a reason why the dungeon is there. Like maybe a rescue mission, or they have to get some incriminating evidence for this bad guy, or just anything like that. Spy mission, real cool. And I like to make dungeons small. I'm not going to say real small, but My dungeons don't tend to be over like 12 rooms. Now that may be 12 rooms a level, but I don't go down very deep either. I think Barrow Maze proved that you don't have to dig down to make a sprawling dungeon. But I just like to keep it at around 12 rooms, maybe 2, maybe 3 levels. Unless that's the whole point of the plot, and it shouldn't be all the time, as I'm saying. So I find books like this pretty invaluable if I can't come up against anything. Let's see, what else is there for dungeon design? There's always the old standby, the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide Dungeon Appendix. Gary had the right idea to put that in there. A lot of people got a lot of dungeons out of that just by rolling. Um, Another one is the Dungeon Builder's Guide for second edition, I believe. Yeah, yeah, and that can be very useful too. And of course, you have the DM fiat of you don't let the dice rule. I mean, you don't let the dice rule the game. Don't let the dice rule the dungeon either. If you see something that doesn't fit or you don't like, get rid of it. If you see something you do like and you didn't roll it, put it in there anyway. What the hey? Players ain't gonna know. And it may make your dungeon. It'll probably make your dungeon better. And that's pretty much where I stand about dungeons. Um, I tend to be rather linear with my dungeons. As far as like, I put monsters in there, I put treasure, and half the time I'll forget things like traps. Which is kind of strange since we just did a show on Brainstorm about traps, and I came up with a couple of pretty good ones. And afterwards I said, I don't think I'd ever put those in my dungeon. Those are too deadly. Those are like Grimtooth traps. But, I should come up with something a little more clever. Otherwise the players get bored. You can't throw orcs and goblins at them all the time. So that's something I have to work on as a DM. But like I said, figure out why the dungeon's there, also the history of the dungeon, and how it has evolved over the years. If it's a older dungeon, why is it here? If it came up like last year or the year before, and what lives in there now, what has lived in there. That's very interesting because that helps with like dungeon dressing. They can find stuff from like generations past that they don't know what it is, but it's there. It's kind of neat, runes or a piece of paper or something scratched on the wall or something like that. Really cool. Um, and that's about all I got for now for dungeons and things. So um, keep watching, and don't forget you can give me email at oldmangrognard@gmail.com. I remembered this time. And we'll see. I'm probably going to even answer some on the show here. So till next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye, everybody.